welcome to Unfiltered, the Big Picture. I'm your host, Otega Ogra, and today we'll be discussing with the Honorable Minister for Environment, Balarabe Abbas Lawal. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. To start with, would like to ask you about your vision for the Ministry of Environment, what you've met on ground, and how your policies, affect the general environmental overview in Nigeria, considering that the world is focusing on climate sustainability, environmental sustainability, climate change, and the myriad of issues we have in Nigeria today. Thank you very much.
When I came in, I found that the ministry requires a lot of publicity in terms of what they do, because environment is very important for all of us. We have to get our environment in shape before we can do anything. Like I kept on saying that environment is the gateway to good health. Because in most cases you find that people tend to believe that environment is something that can take for granted. But we all know that if you can keep your environment safe, clean, and sanitized, you reduce the chance of people getting sick over small elements like typhoid fever, malaria, and the rest of it once your environment is clean and in good shape. So that's why I feel that environment should be given more emphasis in terms of what they do and how they do it. So we've started very well, because when I came in, I found that there are so many issues that we need to address in trying to look at the entire environment of the nation. So there are so many compartments in the ministry which we are trying to address. For example, the one that has been quite at the forefront of what I've been trying to do is the issue of trying to get our forests in shape. Because I'm sure you know that our forest has been subject of a lot of problems. We have three problems within the forest. Number one is that a number of our trees are going down. In fact, that Nigeria is now one of the least countries with forest cover. The minimum you require for a nation is 25%. But in Nigeria now we have gone down to less than 10%. In fact, the present figure is 3.7% forest cover we have. So we are almost in a crisis. That's why I had to approach Mr. President. I went and spoke to him and told him the consequences we are facing for lack of having enough forest cover in Nigeria. And he has asked me to come up with some proposals on how to address these issues, including trying to address the issue of tree felling and things like that. So that's one aspect of the forest issues we have. The second one is that the forest has now become a hibernation ground for bandits and criminals. You find that most of the attack, kidnappings and all that are actually from the forest, that people come out and attack people outside on the roads, in houses and take people back to the forest for ransoms and things like that. So that's one area we are also trying to address. Mr. President is very keen on that, because he asked three of us, myself, the Minister of Solid Minerals, and the Minister of Blue Economy, to address, because they have problem of coastal piracy and the rest of it. We have issues of mining bandits that normally attack mining areas, also illegal miners that have everywhere in Oyo, in Zamfara, in Nasarawa, in Kaduna State. So those are also being addressed by the Minister of Solid Minerals. And also, we are also trying to address the issue of the bandits in the forest, because the forests are now becoming like homes for criminals, for insurgents, and the next group of people that are also important are the poachers. Those that go and kill animals. Some of them are endangered. Like, for example, the recent killing of 2 adult elephants in Maiduguri, in Borno State, sorry. 2 of them were killed, and in fact, they have been a subject of international concern. Whenever you travel out of Nigeria, the first thing they will ask you is that, what are you doing about that? 2 of them were killed, and it went viral. Almost, it was in most media outfits that you have seen. And so that's an area that we are also looking at, trying to see how we can address the issue of poaching in the forest. We get a lot of support from international organizations. Like the Germans are very concerned about training our judges on how to prosecute, how to judge and prosecute forest crimes, this killing of animals, wildlife crimes and all that. And we're extending it to include environmental crimes generally, because we find that most of our judicial system does not seem to give that particular area some what it deserves. So most of the conviction and all that, you find that they are not actually in line with the kind of crime that are committed. Killing elephant, it should be something that is very heinous because they are very rare. In the entire West African sub-region, I think we only have about 55 elephants, and out of which 2 were killed in Borno State. So we are looking at that closely, and so the forest is very important, and we are taking a lot of measures to address the forest issues.
So I really like what you said, Honorable Minister Abbas Lawal. You mentioned something, that environment is indeed the heart of the nation.
Yes.
And the environment, it seeps into every aspect of the nation, from national security to food, to agriculture, to everything. People's lives on a daily basis are, the fuel that they use for food, for cooking and all that, especially in the rural areas, come from tree felling. You have illegal lumberjacks going into the forests to fell our trees, without appropriate licenses, without plans to regenerate those forests and all that. So I hear you when you say the judges are being trained on one side,
Yes.
and I hear you say, okay, you're putting in the policies on the other side, but there's a gap
Yes.
between policy formulation and execution and implementation, or prosecution. There's that gap of implementation.
Right.
How are we looking to strengthen all the agencies under your ministries, whether it's those of the parks, or how do you look to collaborate with other ministries or arms of government, be it maybe the oil and gas industry or ministry, for oil spillages that's been happening in the Niger Delta, some which are already under litigation, some which they've been told to clean up and has been delayed for whatever reasons, or even protecting our marine, and coastal wildlife. We also know something. I know it's a multi-layered question.
Right.
It's also a fact that Nigeria is one of the most polluted, areas in the whole of West Africa, and that's because of, the kind of urban areas we have. They're mostly choked up. You have a lot of people relying on generators, on cars. Cars are much older without proper technologies to help them check, pollution levels. So how can you come in that space, that gap between policy formulation and, execution or prosecution, to help manage,
All right. Thank you very much. I think this is a very important link that we need to do with what I said earlier. I think the ministry, like I'm sure you know, is divided into a number of structures. The first structure is the departments. The departments are the ones that are directly responsible for policy making. That's why you have directors and responsible for certain, there are general directors that are basically supporting directorate, but there are directors that are specified technical departments that deal with issues like the issue of erosion, coastal erosion, the issue of flood, issue of drought, the issue of forests, for example, and also we have one that are dealing with pollution, the one that are also dealing with apart from pollution, then you have the one that is dealing directly with the issue of addressing desertification and the rest of it, degradation of land and desertification. So that's the level of policy. The one that is in charge of EA, that is environmental impact analysis. That's also a department. But you find that attached to this department that make policies, there are also agencies separate from department. The agencies are the ones that are directly responsible for implementation. That the connection between policy and implementation is the connection between the departments and the agencies. We have agencies like the Great Green Wall. They are responsible for trying to build this shelter belt between Nigeria and the desert, the encroaching desert. So we have that. It's about 5 states that are within that ambit. To that department is directly responsible of planting trees. That's why they call Great Green Wall. It's to create a wall between Nigeria and the encroaching Sahara Desert. So that one is directly doing that. And of course, they have certain challenges because of insecurity around that area. But they're doing that, and they're making a lot of impact in that area. So when you come to the issue of erosion, you also have an erosion diversification. So you also have agencies that are directly responsible for that, supporting the department. Because departments are basically more policy-making organs, but the agencies are more implementation organ of the policies. For example, when it comes to the issue of drought, we have ACRISA, which is also another agency, but more of a project, because in Ministry of Environment, you have departments, you have agencies, and you have projects and programs. The department, like I say, policy making. The agencies like Great Green Wall, like the one that is dealing with Nostria, which is like the policeman of the environment. You have Nostra, also that's in charge of what you call oil pollution and other things that are also is trying to address those one directly from the policy that's coming from the Department of Pollution. Then you have programs and projects. These ones have lifespan. They are just there to address a particular problem, and once they finish, they close, and they have a number of years. For example, the ACRISA. ACRISA is directly responsible for trying to revive the degraded lands, trying to bring back land into cultivation, and they're supported by the Wild Department. So that's a project separate from an agency. An agency is like what they call prestataire in our system. They are there permanently created by law to address specific issues, unlike department that are addressing policy making. But projects are created for a particular purpose, are crucial for that accreditation. The high prep, the one we're meeting right now, is created essentially to address the issue of pollution in the Niger Delta, particularly in the Ogoni land. After the agitation of the Ogoni people, the UN took interest and decided to do a research and come up with a report, which I think we've been trying to implement since the beginning of. I did very well. The former minister, she was the one who that actually pushed this idea of high price, and we are now where we are now. They've been trying to clean up the Ogon land, and we hope that will now extend to the rest of the Niger Delta. So that's a project that has a lifespan that will one day wind up. We have what they call another one is the EMAP, which is also responsible for trying to also address problems related to the issue of water. Trying to how do we keep water within the system? How do you also try to see how water can be used effectively and efficiently in our process? So these are areas that in which you understand how the policy is moving, and we relate closely with other ministries. Like for example, under ACRISA, of which I chair, that the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Water Resources are members of that, because there's no way you can discuss the issue of reviving land for cultivation without linking up with agriculture and also water resources. So AgriCell has that collaboration between three ministries, environment, agriculture, and water resources, and at the same time has relationship with the rest of the 36 states of the 19 states of northern Nigeria, because it's basically there you have this problem of land degradation. So all the states are part of ACRISA, and within the state they have what they call PCs, project coordinators. At the national level, we have the national coordinator. So there's this collaboration between the federal government and the state governments in that particular project. So the collaboration is between within the federal government, you have three ministries, and then at the subnationals, the state governments, you have 19 of them. They are all part and parcel of ACRISA. So that collaboration you're talking about, we collaborate with the ministries. And when you talk to the issue of Nostra, for example, which is responsible for this issue of oil pollution, that we have very close relationship with the Ministry of Petroleum, both gas and oil. We have good relationship with them. In fact, some of them are members. The ministers are members of this meeting we're having. Minister of Oil, Petroleum Oil, and Minister of Petroleum Gas are members of HYPRA, because it has relationship with what they do, because we are trying to address the issue of pollution. And why HYPRA is under environment, which I think the United Nations insists it should be under environment, is because they think it's an environmental issue. Pollution should be seen as environmental, not the issue of Ministry of Petroleum that is supposed to be the one that has dealing with petroleum. So what's important is that the ministry has a lot of relationship with most of other ministries. In WACA, for example, the West African coastal erosion issues, which is also being sponsored by, supported by the World Bank. We have relation with the Ministry of Finance and relation with the Ministry of Water Resources again, because that particular body is supposed to address the issue of West African coastal problems, for coastal erosion, surging of ocean into the land, and you find that in Lagos, for example, we have issues in which a number of beaches are disappearing because of this surge. So this particular agency is supposed to address that. It's not doing well as Crystal, but since I came in, we have been trying to push it. I had a meeting with all the coastal states, and I think that we have now agreed that there's going to be a new roadmap, a new framework for that to get the support that we require from the World Bank.
So let's talk about more concrete steps now. I've heard you speak a lot of times about how passionate you are of the Lake Chad and regeneration efforts. It is, a lot of reports have said over time that there's a direct linkage between, the depletion of the Lake Chad and the insecurity issues that is being faced in that area and the greater Lake Chad region across all the countries that border the Lake Chad. Are there any concrete steps that have been taken so far to address that since you've come in? And, what are the plans for the Lake Chad regeneration? Because we know that in as much as we're doing other programs and projects tied to the environmental ministry or across, the governments, including the Pulaco initiative, using non-kinetic means to solve issues there, how is the ministry going to play a bigger role than it has always played? Because one thing Nigerians do not have is information, especially on that thing. And it's a critical body of water, a critical source of livelihood for people living, in that region. So how are we looking to address that?
I think like you said, since I came here, I've been very passionate about trying to address Lake Chad. So Lake Chad problem is more climatic. The climate of the area where Lake Chad is located is the main problem. Insecurity just came in recently. Insecurity maybe aggravated the problem, but the issue of Lake Chad is climate, and also, which is also again climate issues of changes in the ecosystem of that area. First of all, we found that. Let me start by saying that Lake Chad is one of the 10 largest water bodies in the world at one time. But as I'm talking to you now, Lake Chad has just less than 10% of what it used to be before. And Lake Chad used to be a very important ecosystem within, not only in Africa, but the entire world. Because there used to be some birds that fly all the way from Australia and come to Lake Chad annually and breed there and go back. They can't camp here now because the entire thing is almost dry. So since I came in, we've been trying to look at, because there are so many studies that has been done in trying to look at Lake Chad. Some of them address what were the causes, because part like I said, is climatic. One, you found that the feeders, the rivers and the water bodies that used to feed Lake Chad, because of silting, some of them have been silted for a long time because, sometimes we take these natural volumes of water for granted. For a long time, people didn't know that Lake Chad was drying. For many years, they didn't know, because Lake Chad started drying since the 60s, but nobody was aware of that until it becomes so serious that people are beginning to see it receded. So that's when people now started panicking and trying to address what is the problem of Lake Chad internationally. What I found here is that there are a number of studies, so many options were given on how to look at it. One, they found out that some of the water that are flowing into Lake Chad are now reversing because they have been silted there, so they're turning back. And that's one. Number two, you found that there's a lot of activities around Lake Chad that's leading to the drying of Lake Chad. A lot of the water is being used by so many communities. Lake Chad is bordering 4 different countries. You have Chad itself, you have Cameroon, you have Niger, and Nigeria. So we find out the activities around that lake, which was not, people didn't notice that it was receding, so that a lot of activities, a lot of the water have been moved out and all that. So when we realized that these are the problems, we found that, and even if you now desilt those sources, it's not enough to regenerate Lake Chad. So there are so many, some of them, there are ideas that are a little difficult to maybe put, like saying that, look, let's try to draw water from Zambezi River. That's why you have the Victoria Falls. There's a lot of water. Is there a lot of flood everywhere and all that? Let's try to take water from Zambezi and bring it to Lake Chad. If you look at the distance, it's quite it's not really going to be feasible. And even if you're going to do it, it costs a lot of money to do it, a lot of money, and you have to look at international territories, some convention, and the rest of it. So it's one idea that people are putting across. Then we are looking at Benue River. Benue also has some loading area and the rest. Then let's try to draw water from Benue and take into Lake Chad. That's another option that people are thinking of. Let's try to look at the waters around Jigawa, around Yobe, around Adamawa, and look at it and see whether we can put into Lake Chad. So there are a number of options that are being looked at. But what we are looking at what is the simpler option of trying to start. Some people came out and said that, look, we can even try to, because where the water receded, some people came with that research that what you have there is a very good fertilizer that don't need any addition or any factory additives for it, just go and use it. So people are coming with that idea. So we say, go and come back and tell us what we are going to do. So we can use that, we can get people to remove that, distilled Lake Chad, remove what they call as fertilizer, and use it. It says you can just bag it and just use it, and it's better than what we have, the fertilizer we have now, urea, the NPK, and the rest of it. So people are looking at that. In fact, the chap that came here was sent to me by the Minister of Agriculture. We had a discussion with him, so we're still expecting a report from him. There are those that believe that there are what has been done. There are lakes like Lake Chad in Southeast Asia, and so we're trying to look at what have they done, because they have now been able to recover them to almost 35% from where they were, less than 10%. So they have done that. So we're looking at that study in trying to address Lake Chad. And one thing I want to let you know that people are concerned about Lake Chad. Even when the people from Ghana, the defense, the Department of Defense Colombiana came in, they mentioned Lake Chad. And I was surprised. They're from Ghana. They are saying that Lake Chad is an international catastrophe. So we need to address it. And today we had a meeting with the ambassador of Canada, and he also is willing to look at it and support us. So we are looking for support everywhere. If we have to go to Zambezi, maybe we'll look at it, and maybe it may take time, but we can start somewhere. But it looks a lot. It requires a lot of money. If we have to go to Benue, which is also another option. If we look at all the rivers around Hadeja, Jamahari rivers, we look at the wetlands of Unguru, we look at the other water sources from Adamawa and Taraba. We can all look at these options, but Lake Chad is something that is very close to my heart, and I'm trying to get as much information, as much studies on it to see whether we can. Because if we allow Lake Chad to disappear, it's a very big catastrophe for the entire world, not for Nigeria or for Africa. It's an international problem that we must bear and address, because the ecosystem has been completely destabilized. Lake Chad used to be a very good source of getting fish for us across Africa, but now you find that you can get as much as we are getting before. So it's a big issue that we need to address, and whatever support we can get anywhere to revive Lake Chad, we are doing that. We are not resting our oars on that.
So are we looking to put a timeline to this? At least even if it's a framework. I mean, before the end of this first tenure of this administration, do Nigerians expect to see like a framework in place, especially on Lake Chad? Like you said, it's an international disaster. The biodiversity is gone. The wildlife there is gone. People are moving away from there, putting further pressures on other rural and urban areas around there. So, are we looking to see a framework before the end of this administration?
I think based on what we have been doing and what we are getting in terms of report, I believe that strongly that before the end of this year, not the administration, before the end of the year, we are going to have something to start working on. Like I said, we are not going to have immediate answers to what we need, but I think we are starting with the issue of desilting, trying to now go back to the previous ecosystem around that area, trying to address how we can now reverse what's going on in trying to now get the water that used to flow into Lake Chad to now begin to flow. That we are doing that with most of the states that are around there. And in fact, lately we had a meeting with the Cameroonian Minister of Forest. I raised that team strongly. There's also, we are meeting also with the Chadian. We're also putting that across to them strongly. And maybe we'll also contact Niger. But large volume of water is in Nigeria, I'm sure you know. So, so I'm looking at all these options to start. So that's maybe the starting point. But like I can tell you that even if we now reverse this thing, what they are going to feed into lecture is so small that we need something that is bigger, much bigger than that. Like if you look at this option of Benue, it's a possibility. Look at the option, like I said, Zambezi is a large volume of water. I'm sure if you have been to Zambia, you see the Victoria Falls. You can see it's water they can spare for us, but the distance is quite enormous. So it's not. So we are going to start something because the president is committed. We have had discussion with him several times on the issue of Lake Chad. He's very much committed that we must address Lake Chad. So it's one of the marching orders he gave us. Forest and Lake Chad are some of the key areas that he is very much concerned about. So we are on that because you find that there is loss of livelihood there. A number of people have lost their means of living by the drying of Lake Chad. The biodiversity, I mentioned, this biodiversity used to come, a lot of flora and fauna around that area is virtually disappearing. So I hope, and I'm very much convinced from the way we have been working on it. So we have 3 different departments working on it now. The ACRISAL, they have some money for it. There's some vote that has been dedicated by ACRISAL and the World Bank for Lake Chad, which we are trying to address. And there are other international organizations, particularly the EU, are also concerned about Lake Chad. So we are getting some funding for Lake Chad, but it's not enough. But whatever we get, we'll try to start something, because I believe that rather than keep on, we made a lot of studies. So rather than keep on studies, we'll pick all the studies, some of them make sense, so we can start with those that make sense, like the issue of trying to reverse the source of flow into Lake Chad. If we start with that one, which is much cheaper to address, then we can look at the bigger option that we have to address the Lake Chad.
So back to economic policy and environmental policy.
Right.
How do you balance, on one side, climate change is now the new buzzword, across the world, but it's also a clear and present danger to the entire world.
Yes.
And on the other side, you have countries in Africa, countries like Nigeria, who have to balance economic growth with its own natural resources which it owns, of which a lot of them are hydrocarbons, and the need for us to still, maintain an environmentally sustainable nation in the context of climate change. So how do you balance that economic growth that we need to rapidly develop and environmental policy in a way that still engenders growth?
I think right. You hit it on you hit the nail on the head. When we went for COP28, the president was very clear on that we are very much keen about trying to address the issue of climate change, the issue of emission and the rest of it. But we have to bear in mind that, like we said, our economy relies heavily on this hydrocarbon and the rest of it. So, but on our part, there are a number of policies that we've got. The last Federal Electric Council, the government came out clearly that we should try to emphasize the issues of, particularly when it comes to the transportation, purchase of vehicles that are environmentally friendly. Electric vehicles, because the President Eduardo Copy launched that we are going to buy electric vehicles, buses, starting point. Even within the ministry, there's a budget that we have for purchase of electric vehicles. All these are attempts to reduce the issue of emission that is coming from fossils, fuel, and the rest of it. But like you said, we have to balance it, because our economy relies heavily on this. So that's why I found that the targets we're looking at is targets that we are talking about 2060 now, in terms of trying to, for the complete transition from this fossil fuel to cleaner energy sources. So we are trying to do that, and the government is very conscious of these issues. So we are going towards that. So we see that we have started gradually into trying to get this cleaner energy. Even we come up with this even our cooking policy that has just been approved by the council, which is trying to, first of all, try to reduce the cutting down of trees, and secondly, trying to reduce also cooking that is based on fossils and that. So there are so many things that we are trying to do, but like you said, we are trying to balance the fact that we need to move to that direction, cleaner energy and all that, trying to reduce the pollution in the country and all that. So, and the government is very much sensitive to that. And during our discussion and negotiation, that was central to what we agree. And basically, you found that the biggest polluters of our environment are the industrialized countries, the big countries, and we've been trying to put pressure on them that it's all right, we'll move there, but you need to give us support. There must be a sort of democracy in terms of how to address
Africa produces just 6% of total emissions.
So our own pollution is far less than your own. So we have been talking about this issue of trying to support that particular loss and damage things. You know, we've gone through a lot. So there's loss and damage. For instance, the Paris COP, which took place many years ago. But in fact, that's why I very much support the policy of the current president of COP, the Sadi from UAE. He's been quite passionate on that. In fact, 3 days ago, we met with the UAE ambassador. They have already put in their own share, about 40 billion into the COP. So we are now looking at other countries to also do the same. Those that made promises and pledges during the Paris COP. But so we are balancing it, but in balancing it, we also need to show the international community that we are the victims. We are the victims of what has been going on. So the government is taking steps, but at the same time, as you take that step, you have to also look at your own economy. How far can you go, and to what extent can you do? So we are on that, and the last council meeting was a clear testimony to the commitment of Mr. President. So all ministries now, if you are buying any vehicle, it must be a vehicle that is geared towards cleaner environment, clean vehicles, vehicles that are tied on the CNGs, for example, is one of the ones that's the minimum we can go. We are even going higher, because in Borno State there are some people who are trying to encourage, who are looking at trying to do this kekena pep, basically on solar. Basically solar. So by the time we get there, we have battery, solar, CNG, and that's so that's a conscious effort by the government, particularly by the president, to move to that direction. But in doing that, we must also understand that we have to look at our economy as a whole, which is heavily relying on petrol.
So, Honorable Minister Abbas Lawal, apologies. Like I said earlier, how do we intend to drive, being that your ministry is at the forefront of ensuring that, we use energy responsibly, we use all these new policies with regards to, electric vehicles, cleaner fuels and all those things? Because I know there's a problem. It's one thing to have them for the interim, to use them. It's another thing to dispose of them. A lot of the electric vehicles, for instance, have batteries that's, at the end of the day, when they're disposed improperly, contribute to heavy metals, which can go into water bodies, which cause even further environmental degradation. The mining of those metals are another issue on its own. So are we expecting to see your ministry more at the forefront of this, and how do you intend to go about this?
On that, I think when I came here, I met a lot of policies. A lot of policies that has to do with disposal of batteries, disposal of some of these items that are being used for the solar generation and the rest of it. When we had this interaction with these people that are coming with the new battery technologies that can even support transmission station and all that with a battery. You can have this, even the national grid and the rest of it on battery. So we now say, look, I raised this issue that, look, let's not go into something that later will become a problem. These batteries that we are buying, because if you go to all houses, most houses now that are on inverters and batteries, we have a lot of batteries that are coming to the country, and at the end of the day, after they run out, they become a problem in terms of disposal. So I was mentioning that there are policies for battery disposal in Nigeria. I say, I've not seen it. So I read the policy, which is very, very good in the sense that it addressed all the issues that I had problems with at that time. So what we are now insisting on is that we don't have problem with battery technology, but the battery must be manufactured in a way that they will last for a longer period. And after that, they must also be recycled. There must be a way in which they will continue being recycled, so there will be no time that we'll say these batteries will be disposed. So that, I think, is one of the things we're trying to do. And that linked me to the issue of circular economy, which I think is one area that I am also passionate about. Trying to turn most of our pollutants, most of our garbage into wealth. This is what we're trying to do this. So we have, in fact, during our retreat in Kaduna, we were able to raise a team that work out the circular economy roadmap, which I think recently during the Zero Waste celebration, I launched the roadmap, which I think is now being used. We have already established the committee that will address that. And one thing that is very, very important in relation to the circular economy. Circular economy will also enhance the link between the federal government and the state governments, because most of the garbage we're talking about belong to the state governments. They are all within the state. And circular economy is trying to address this issue of garbage, turning this garbage into wealth. And so they are there now. In fact, they are being led by the Minister of State, which I think very passionate about it also. And he's known as like a medical doctor, so he's very concerned about it. And legs that went very far, because they came in and made presentation to us what they have been doing on that. So we are looking at all these garbages, all this disposal that people are making. We are trying to find ways and means of turning them into something. For example, even the so-called waste that we often talk about, like the fecal waste, that people go to toilets and so we are now finding ways and means of generating power from that. If you go to Kuje prison, that's our pilot scheme, and it's working very well. The fecal waste of Kuje prison is now to using to generate light in the prison.
So it's changing, converting to biogas.
Biogas, and it's naturally, and we're doing that. We have started doing that in some federal government colleges, that in fact including Balarabe College, my alma mater. So we're looking at we're trying to see that the ministry is trying to say that anything you have can be turned into something. So circular economy is something that we are trying to push, and we are getting support from the state government, because at the end of the day, this is going to be led by the state government, because they are the one that actually have the wealth there. So, but the federal government is leading in that direction, because we have to now come up with the framework, come out with and also show examples like we have done in Kuje prison. We are trying to go to different states in trying to do that. So we always try to get the states, and we are getting support from the state. There's no way you go, you don't get support from the state. So we are very much committed to that. So like I said, there are a number of policies within the ministry that for a long time have been left in shelves, which we are now trying to bring out. Even the recent agreement we signed with Cameroon in terms of cross-border crimes has been there for a long time. It started since 2010 or thereabout. In fact, the while I met it, and we came in. In fact, Sharon, the former minister, Sharon, she came for the signing of the agreement, and she told me that, how were you people able to bring this in out? Because she tried before she left for Nigeria to get it out. So there are so many of these that we're trying to bring out. The national clinking policy has been there before we came in. So these are things that we are looking at. I say, let's look at all this that people have done. A lot of work has been done in this ministry, but they have not been put, research and all that, but they have not been put to the level of implementation. That's what I've been trying to do. And one thing that's why I'm happy you are here, Otega. We need a lot of publicity reach. You have to reach out, because when you're looking at environment, you're looking at, we have to get the buy-in of the people. Like I said earlier, you find that environment is the gateway to good health. Once your environment is clean, once your environment is taken care of, you reduce the chances of going to hospital, clinics, and the rest of it. So, but you cannot do that by just sitting down and saying, you have to go out to the people. So this year, in this year's budget, we have put a lot of resources in media communication, getting across. Like you said, that maybe translation into different languages, people to understand that clean your house, get your environment well sanitized, will keep you healthy. You don't have to waste money in going to hospital if you can keep your environment healthy. Malaria, typhoid, even flu. If you can keep your environment, you know how to dispose of your spit, you know how to dispose the open defecation that we've been confronting. Once you can address that, because that's one area we have been trying to address, open defecation. Nigeria is one of the worst countries in terms of open defecation. So we've been trying to address it, and I'm glad to say that we're getting support from a lot of corporate organizations. We're not saying that bring money for us to build these toilets. No, build them. We have discussed the Dangotes, the Boas, Lafarge is very much on it. You know, in fact, they have started. I saw Tony is also interested in it. All we are saying that go to several communities and visit toilets. And we are trying to also get across to all the politicians, go to your community and build toilets. Because the target for us to get toilets for everyone in Nigeria is 2030. But we are not getting there. We are almost like 7 years, in the 60s.
On a scale of 1 to 100, where are we on that target?
I think we're a little far away, sir. We're a little far away. We are less than 50%, to be honest with you. But with the kind of effort we are putting through now, with cooperation from the Ministry of Water Resources. You know, recently we did the World Toilet Day, in which we'll be able to, that's the time when people begin to see the problem we are facing. You know, when I was going for the toilet day, then I was coming down from the flyover there, and what do I see? A line of people defecating close to the Ministry of Environment. That was a big issue. So I said, so it's there. So, but we have been able to solve that problem. We've been able to provide alternative toilets for them. So, and I believe that's the way we should do it. So in open places, in markets, in schools, even in schools, if you go there, most secondary, particularly day schools, the toilets are not there. So children probably don't want to go to the bush and defecate. So it's a big issue that we need to address. And these are the sources of cholera we are fighting about. So environment is very important to address. Even the lethal Lassa fever, Lassa, is from rats. And rats come to your environment because there are things that your environment is not clean. There are things that they will come and eat. They come and eat garbage in your house. So if you can address your house, they will not be there because they are there looking for what to eat. And if there is nothing for them to eat, they will perish gradually. So environment is key. And like I kept on saying is that we have no alternative to the environment we have now. Since I was a kid, and that's many years ago, in the 60s, early 60s, I know people have been trying to go to the moon. They have been to the moon. They have gone to the moon. They are all trying to look for an alternative environment. But there is none up to now. People are going to the moon. They are going to the Mars. But there is nowhere we can live apart from this earth. And you find that it is quite recently that people are beginning to realize that we have not been very fair to this environment. We have not been fair to the environment. You know, that I think I'm sure you noticed. When we are kids, in front of our house, grass grow up to this. But now you find that grass is gone. We used to do hide and seek in grasses at that time. But now there's no grass for you to hide. In fact, the grass is now below your ankle. So, but in those days, they grow up to this. So it's all part of the fact that our environment is warning us. It's warning us. The heat that we have gone through this year, I'm sure you know. You know, generally speaking, in Nigeria, the heat season started in March to April, but the season started in February and lasted up to this moment. Apart from the fact that there's at certain intervals we have rain, we have been in ovens. So it's serious that we need to do a lot, and I want to encourage you people in the media to do a lot to to address the issue of environment.
Mr. Abbas, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, you've gone from environmental sustainability to deforestation to, you know, water management to open defecation to, you know, the partnerships between your ministry and other ministries, you know, the work you do, how important it is.
Right.
And one thing that stood out to me is you're not one for much talk. You want to implement. So just for the Nigerian people,
Right.
can you just tell us 5 things that you would like to achieve before you leave?
Right.
You know, before we leave this government. Just 5 things.
Right. So number one, like I've told you, is to improve our forest cover from the 3.7% we have to at least 30%, to go above the average, which is to go above the minimum, which is 25%. I think we need that. And in so doing that, we are coming up with a lot of policies. I've met Mr. President on this, particularly this way. And I've been talking to the loggers, those that go into the forest and cut down the trees, and we are getting some understanding with them. So in doing that, while we are engaging with those that export wood from Nigeria, and the issue of, we have brought in the national clean cooking policy, which will reduce the cutting down of trees and charcoal and the rest of it. So I believe that we can achieve more. But the most important thing is that I am one of the things that I want to do before I leave, that we are going to encourage, you know, I want to prepare with them, we are going to encourage private forests, because we are going to encourage people to come and create forests. And we're talking with state governors, and when we met recently, they agree that we'll allocate land, particularly degraded lands that have been wiped out by desert and drought, and give them to them so they can create private forests. In that forest, they can even generate animals there. They can put animals there. It can be a tourist attraction, and it can be a source of getting carbon credit for them. So we are going to do that. We're going to do a lot in that area. We are coming out with a policy that we will need the support of FEC and that this issue of that. And once we do that, we have to now get the buy-in of the state. Like I said, land in Nigeria, based on the Land Use Act, belongs to the state government. So we need their support in that area. So once we get that, I am sure we are going to improve our forest cover. That's number one. Number two, I've discussed extensively about Lake Chad. I want to see before I leave office, that something has been done about Lake Chad. Even if we're restoring, taking back to 25-30%, or even more, if we do that. So that also what I think is very, very close to my heart. Then, if you look at other areas, this issue of open brigade is very close to my heart, because we find that it's a big issue in terms of the common disease that we come across. Typhoid fever, cholera has been a big killer in most part of Nigeria. So if you can address that, malaria also, particularly for children, is also, they say, #1 killer in terms of children. So we need to also address this open defecation in a way that it will reduce the kind of problem we go through. And secondly, circular economy is something that I'm also pushing very, very strongly, because that will, in a way, reduce our pollutants, reduce all the garbages that we have, and make this garbage a source of wealth, a source of employment for our youth and our women. So once we do that, and it's beginning to show that it's doable from what the Lagos state government is doing. So that's one area I also want us to, by the time we leave, we should push that. And there is one issue during this green bond, which we are trying to issue this year. This green bond is a bond that is geared toward improving, encouraging green projects, or I would say clean projects, because try to associate green with cleanness and freshness. So that green bond is what we are trying to push this year. It's part of our mandate given by Mr. President, but we try to do it. 2 of them were done, and I want to tell you that it's only Nigeria in the whole of Africa that has been able to issue 2 green bonds. And South Africa are trying now, but we have done that successfully, and we are trying to do this one successfully. We are we are a little behind time now, but I think we are going to catch up. We have been able to catch up now. So that is one area that I think I want to leave a legacy as far as that is concerned. Then there is also, when it comes to the issue of flooding and the rest of it, particularly in the north, we want to see how we can adapt to the issue of flood, adaptation techniques, where we have this rain or water harvesting, where we have been looking at what has happened in India, because they have a lot of rain. In Nigeria, I found that most of the flood happen in areas that they shouldn't happen at all, because you see flood in Katsina, you see flood in Sokoto. No, these are areas that have less rainfall than say, for example, River State or Bayelsa. But because of the fact that where the water is supposed to either move out or be stored, it's not there. It's been silted or it's been people are built on it. So we're trying to now go into, we've been getting people to train in the area of water harvesting. So so rather than flood becoming a disaster, becoming a catastrophe, we want to turn flood into prosperity. So when we have a lot of water, we find ways and means of storing, reserving it, and using it maybe after the rainy season. So these are areas that I think we want to go. They are all key to what we're trying to do in the ministry.
Thank you very much, Minister Abbas Lawal, for your time.
All right.
No one can doubt your capacity now that we've spoken to you. It's very clear that you have a clear vision for the Ministry of Environment, and you know where you want to take this place to. Just one message for Nigerians.
Right.
One message from you to Nigerians.
Right. Let's keep our environment clean. If we do that, we don't have to waste resources and our time for going to hospitals. So please keep our environments clean. That is the gateway to good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.